Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about Reshredded, I mean, it's just kind of interesting. The whole shredding thing just kind of evolved. Like I said, I started off with doing vocal metal. I call it vocal metal because I don't know what else to call it. I mean, it's metal with vocals as opposed to the instrumental stuff. I don't know. It's weird. It's like I started and my voice just started getting shredded just from screaming and doing all that. So I thought, man, I love playing solos. So I thought I'm going to try an instrumental album, and I did shred. Somehow with that album, I sent that to Richard Lynch, the bassist for Saint, and he got hold of it, and he liked it, and he wrote me back, and we started corresponding, and he just like inspired me to do a second one, and I said, well, would you want to play on it? And he said, sure. So that's when he and I and Dee got hooked up, and that's why hence the name Reshredded, because it was like kind of the follow-up to that first one. And then, I don't know, it just kind of fell into a pattern and launched into just a string of instrumental shredder tunes. And I have no idea what that had to do with the question, but, that's just kind of the story of how that evolved. And now I'm kind of getting back around to where I'm ready to record some more vocal stuff, too. So.
All right. Well, let's talk about this.
Okay.
How did you get into heavy metal music? I mean, I know it goes all the way back to being a kid.
Sure.
Did you grow up going to church?
Oh, yeah, what a story. I grew up in a home where we went to church.
Yeah.
And my parents were Christians. It was kind of a nominal thing. I mean, we just kind of went to church, and my parents, pretty adamant about that, but I wouldn't say that through the week that we really talked about Jesus, or music was always a big part of our house. And my mom, I mean, she's a child of the 50s, and so there was always kind of crew cuts and I don't know, just a bunch of stuff laying around. But anyway, the first rock album I ever bought was Kiss, Love Gun.
Yeah.
I was in fourth grade. When you're in fourth grade and you see those characters and you put that record on, I was just bitten with the bug. I just got into it. And then shortly thereafter, seems like anyway, it wasn't too long, 1980, my dad actually took me and a friend, Jay Harvey, to Indianapolis. It used to be Market Square Arena, to see AC/DC in concert.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Back in Black tour.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Dad sat there beside me with cotton in his ears, kind of like tolerating it. But I'm telling you, man, it was Brian Johnson at that point, because Bon Scott had just passed away.
Right.
And but Brian Johnson, when he came out and that bell came down and he rang that bell with that hammer, and Angus Young stepped out on stage and started playing, dude.
Was that
I was
it?
I was worshiping at the altar of AC/DC, for a lot of years, man. I was much more a metalhead in the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll world kind of person than I was a Christian at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then, there's a whole story there of how God brought me back around. And that came full circle, too. And, God's faithful, so He's with me through the whole journey. But, oh, man, for years, my bedroom was a shrine to Kiss and AC/DC and Maiden and Priest and all those bands.
Right. So were those like your major influences as far as why you picked up a guitar and all that?
Big time. Angus was the main influence. I mean, Kiss kind of got me going. I love the music that Kiss put out, and then but Angus was the guitar player that made me want to play guitar. The thing I loved about him was he came along in the 80s when, I don't know if you remember this, but I mean, I was learning to play guitar, and anybody that played guitar, it was all about who can play faster, who can shred the most, and the thing I loved about Angus was he just got into it. He didn't play necessarily the fastest or the hardest stuff to play, but it was just cool.
Well, it was all blues-based. Everything.
Yeah,
was blues. All of his heroes were blues-based.
It was just blues and riffs and attitude, and it was just cool. And I just loved his stuff. But really and truly, there were like five guys that really influenced me. There was Angus and Ace, of course, from Kiss, and then Randy Rhoads.
Yeah.
I loved that guy. Just thought he was phenomenal. And I think a lot of people kind of forget how phenomenal he was in his time.
Yeah, from the first album. The second album, big difference. Big difference.
Just huge. He was doing stuff that nobody was doing. I mean, even in his recording stuff, I really don't know what the technology was back then for recording as far as effects to do this. To get a fat guitar solo, he would record a solo, and then he'd play it note for note right on top of it, just to get that fat sound.
Right.
Just doing some really cool stuff. And then Dave Murray and Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden. Just love those guys. And but those are the five.
Yeah.
That I would, have really, really just influenced my writing. And if you listen to my stuff, you can really hear those five guys come out in it a lot.
Well, I heard some Satriani, but I'll get to that here in a little bit.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny. That's cool. Yeah. Well, actually, go ahead. We'll get to that whenever you want to get to it. That's cool.
Yeah, let's save that for a little bit. Let's get some more songs in here. Let's play a little bit of Conquest, and we'll head right back.
Yeah, the Conquest was, I was kind of in a mode of, because there's another song on there called March to Mordor, and I was real hip on the whole Lord of the Rings thing at the time, and just thinking in terms of the whole spiritual warfare, and so when I started writing that song, it's just funny how a lot of my songs come about. It starts off with kind of that just little AC/DC kind of feel, kind of a little Angus riff, and then it just goes into that marching thing, where I just have some sound effects of the whole army marching, and then it launches into just a real aggressive slam and shred couple of minutes there, and it's just supposed to just kind of depict or give you the sense of things starting off kind of calm and almost fun, and then it gets real serious with the marching, and then bam, the battle hits, and it's not like we're trying to say anything huge with the song other than just kind of portray the idea of marching into battle and taking ground, sort of, I guess you'd say, for the kingdom of God, or just in life, just persevering and pressing on. So that's the Conquest.
That is sweet.